Okay, mic check, mic check. Let's get right into this. Okay, so it is your host, Damon Knight, Damon as in the man. So these videos now that I'm going to start doing, I'm going to start editing and exploring that. You know, I only know how to edit from Apple Mac Pros. So I have a Microsoft Pro here, so I got to learn how that editing system works. And really, you know, I'm not really into I'm not trying to become a vlogger. I'm not trying to spend my time more so editing. You know, anybody who's interested in this should definitely stay tuned. I will just be hitting key topics, and like even now, like I should be learning how to do webinars so you can see what I'm reading. So I'm just going to go ahead, look through the documented petition description and its process under 82, section, part 82, code 25. So you need signed and dated by the group's governing body stating that the submitted materials constitute the group's official documented petition. 2. A concise written narrative with citations to supporting documents thoroughly explain how each document is applied to the criteria in 83.11. The narrative should describe in detail the group's continuous social and political existence from 1900 to the present and describes its descent from the historic Indian tribe. So, you know, I just posted a video yesterday, and I got a comment through Carl, you know, that Biden's administration, when this was implied, in 2015, this was President Obama. So this was a Democratic method of how to federally recognize tribes. I know Trump had a whole different outlook on it, which I'm not really here to talk about presidents and their opinions, but Trump had another method that actually goes where Congress has the authority, and the BIA for, you know, he was cracking down on these federal agents that they're not doing their job. You know, like, what's the point of the BIA? You know, they're not doing their job. They lack assistance for the tribes who are currently trying to petition. It's a long process, you guys. This is going to be a few years. It's already been a few decades, you know, but the difference is a lot of people finish and I'm just getting started. So you know, and I won't, you know, I have youth on my side. So that's something that I'm going to act as a consultant during this process. I have not necessarily no interest of being a part of this community. I would love to be a part of its whole development and act as a consultant. And that's my personal decision. You know, it's just, you know, governing body, that's going to have to be an election. That's going to be a vote. And there was a good question I was watching on a webinar yesterday. You know, there was a question, well, if there's other subgroups petitioning and they fail, does that mean that another group can't pick it up and try it again? Well, you can. Now, if you want to make a confederacy where you have affiliation with these subgroups, or currently the 3 federal recognized tribes, that is a possibility too. But this, the way I'm going at it, you know, we don't need Shakopee, we don't need Prairie Island, we don't need Lower Sioux, and we don't need Mendota, and we don't need any other subgroups or people who are trying to take the position of power without a general council vote. So, okay, so going into an official current membership list. So this is the list with each member's full name, maiden name as appropriate, birthday, and current residential address, with the statement describing the circumstances surrounding the preparation of the current membership list. A lot of people probably are going to disagree, but I'm going to roll with the James McLaughlin roll, the 1899 roll, and that also he prepared a roll in 1917. You can notice the significance and the difference of the membership on that roll who participated in that census roll. There was a lot of people and families dropped from the 1886 roll, and that's a whole nother video. That's a whole nother topic. I believe in that. In my opinion, in my respectful opinion, that the James McLaughlin roll is the most accurate roll. He had a quarter blood wife that was Mdewakanton that could identify her own tribe members. So this is something where Robert B. Hinton, he was just a white federal Indian agent, similar, James McLaughlin was too, but it was nice they probably, James McLaughlin, I heard Robert B. Hinton got paid off. So then we're going down to the privacy information. So with you sharing your information, that will be private. It will not be posted. Even with the Freedom of Information Act, that they will not publicly release anything like social security numbers, birth certificates, all that. So and then it says that in here. So suggested outline for concise written narrative. The following outline is a guide for creating the concise written narrative. This outline describes several topics a group may wish to consider when providing a concise written narrative. Suggested topics include, but are not limited to, the following: an introduction of the petitioning group. So this is the Minnesota Mdewakanton. We present to you, an introduction. You can imagine that. If you can't, go look it up, the definition of it. Let me see where we're at. With the written narrative. Suggested topics include, not limited to, the following: an introduction of the petitioning group, the claim of a historic Indian tribe, any claims of previous federal acknowledgement, if applicable, a presentation of how the group meets the 7 mandatory criteria, and whatnot. This outline is not meant to be a formula for a positive decision. Instead, the outline suggests a reasonable structure for a concise written narrative. If a petitioning group believes that other topics are important to its petition, then it should link them to the appropriate criteria, properly reference, cite, and certify all supporting evidence in submissions. So, introduction regarding petition group. Current official name of the petitioner and previous names, if applicable. Name should appear in group's governing body document. If no governing document, the name should be included in the written statement. And that's where I will make a written statement representing you guys. And local and headquarters. So right now, like what Mendota does a great job at is she, Elder Sharon there, she has a office that she uses out of I believe it's the Historic Society's property, the Dupas House, right there in Mendota. So that's another thing too. We're gonna have to figure out where these, where are we gonna start our office, because we cannot just not have one office for, not have many addresses for this. There has to be one office, one address. That's where we got to vote on the governing body. And then there's going to be needed other contact information, phone number, email, etc. Number of current living members. So you're going to have to make your own census roll of your family, of all the updates of birth dates and deaths, and then also just being able to list your minors and just create your family tree. I posted something, so if you have trouble, you can look at that. Names of attorneys and other non-members authorized to represent group before the department. Right now, we, my wife and I, formed a corporate S corp, Dakota City. And what Dakota City does is it consults and strives to better and improve the individual, the group, or current federally recognized tribe on methods and a model to live a self-sustaining and self-determination lifestyle. So that's where I'll be acting as, like I just said. So you're going to need a full names of current officers and members of the governing body, together with dates indicating when each person's term began and will end. We will post a rough outline of that. Again, like I said in other videos, we can use Prairie Island, Shakopee, and Lower Sioux as an example, as positions that we need to have people in. And it's only going to work that way. So, we're going to have people working in the enrollment office, working as a secretary, working as a chairman, vice chairman, secretary, treasurer, working as a legal, working in doctor, just different types of social programs we need to model. So that will be posted. And then a statement of basic overall claim for federal acknowledgement as an Indian tribe, summarizing the petitioner's continuous existence from 1900 to present. That's something that's nice, and I think it's I'll explain more about the continuous of existence. See, that was one thing that I struggled with when I started this in 2017, explaining that one. That was hard because of how separated and divided our tribe is. But even that is a political existence because of the hostility and the racism and forcefully or for survival selling their Sioux land scripts. That was a political existence. That's something that we all can relate to. So that's good. I figured that out. I thought it was like, you had to continuously know each other, and that is a big help for just even proving as a continuous existing tribe. So then we'll go, and then I'm reading this draft, so I'm trying to just read the useful information so you can go sit and talk about it with your family, or show them this video, send this video to the family historian. So optional, this is an optional one. It says claim of previous federal acknowledgement, right? So we got people in the federal courts right now saying that the Minnesota Midwauketon were already federally recognized. What's going on here? And that's something that I said in the other video, so I don't have to beat the dead horse, but an explanation of how the federal government previously acknowledged the petitioner. So through acts of Congress, statutes, treaties, docket payments, that's obviously, you're not just giving free money to an Indian tribe that doesn't exist. This is just an unorganized entity. So so then it says description of evidence to demonstrate previous federal acknowledgement includes, but is not limited to, treaty relations with the United States, include treaty negotiations for unratified treaties, like we know the Mendota Treaty, 1854 treaty did not have enough treaty signers, so that that could be brought up. And then the Indian tribe by an act of Congress or executive order. The 1863 Act and the 1888, 89, 91. We can go on about acts. That's the thing. We've existed. Federal government treatment as having collective rights in tribal lands or funds. These lands that the 12 square miles, and I don't believe right now that's like held as a federal land. I think that just is a whole nother story. But the 1886 lands, that was federally held land for the use and exclusive benefit for the exclusive right Midwauketon, the friendly or loyal Sioux. So that is something, funds, docket 359 through 363. These are existing accounts. We can, know this because if you got a docket payment just recently, in 2017, those are funds that the government had collective rights to. So federal reservation of land held for an Indian tribe or its collective ancestors, you're going to need to do an abstract title research. Again, if this is anything complicated, this is exactly why my wife and I started Dakota City. So if you need an abstract title chain of research, that is not cheap. You might have to end up paying a couple of grand just to see that that the title wasn't properly transferred. See, Congress had to give the authorization for those lands to be transferred because those are federally held lands. So the state of Minnesota, are using lands that were held federally for our ancestors, but whether our ancestors didn't sell the land and didn't use the land, so the land, eventually just got used, and then a great title was made, or your ancestors sold the land, or they're or just rightfully, not rightfully, but wrongfully removed, or to avoid hostility, did not use that land. But that still is a land patent, and that is evidence. So this is going down to okay, so these identifications must be from 1900 to present and should be no more than 10 years apart, as shown below, which I'll go into. For each time period, provide photocopies or images, scans from sources that identify the petitioning group as an Indian entity as required by 83.3 A. Thoroughly explain how each piece of evidence meets from 1900 to 1909, from 1910 to 1919, from 1920, from 1929. So obviously we're going to have to do that as a whole, but when you do it as your individual family history and you go through what was going on during this time, what was going on, and do not lie. And that's the thing, we need to be as honest as possible. So I understand that there's a lot of families that, maybe in the early 19th century or even the middle of the century, had no tribal relations or affiliation with anything. That needs to be explained, because again, that goes to a continuous political existence where politically this was a decision our tribal members had to make for a survival method and reason. So, and that is also considered. So you're gonna have to this is a distinct community, and I'm just gonna read a couple of it, some of it, just to see what good parts are out of it. So, organized evidence in time periods that document the group's social and cultural events, activities from 1900 to present. These periods vary each petitioner based on its history and circumstances, but a 20-year period may provide a useful framework. As shown below, indicates events that mark each time period, beginning and end. Provide information for each period. First, describe the social group at different points in time by answering questions such as, okay, now listen, who are the actual group members? How are they related to one another? And what is the group's composition? So where do they live, socialize, and celebrate life events? What social institutions, churches, neighborhoods, schools, social clubs, interest groups, cemeteries, economic pursuits support members' social interactions? Second, provide evidence describing what the members are doing with one another, particularly activities and its members from non-members. Some examples of social interactions include marriages between group members, seasonal celebrations, informal get-togethers, and group reunions. Demonstrate that the petitioner's memberships participate in these activities. In addition, the petitioner may provide evidence of cultural practices to the group, such as shared language, religious activities, or cultural knowledge, practice ceremonies. The group's historic heritage are not recent interpretations. Thoroughly explain how each piece of evidence meets from 1900 to 1919 and so forth. So, okay, that's a good one. That's what I was trying to say yesterday, and I won't talk too long on it. We're going to have to start learning the language together. We're going to start having to do religious activities together. We're going to have to demonstrate how we are a political community and also an active community. And again, that's where Mendota does a great job, where for a non-federally recognized group to be able to be organized similar to with the resources they can obtain, that's something where that's what you're going to need to do. And it's just to think that, well, to say you're too busy, I don't have time, I don't have work. Look, Shakopee started with only 12 people, and then one day 20,000 people tried to enroll. Don't be those 20,000 people. Be those 12 people who reap the benefit and their children and so forth. Again, it would be horrible for people not to put in the work for this, and then next thing you know, it's just like Shakopee all over again. Nobody wanted to help Shakopee. I mean, we were living there on that land since the 40s and organized in 1969, and other families came in during that time. Mostly all the families from the original 12 people started coming in the 50s. So, 50s, federally recognized in 1969, still didn't mean nothing. It was still poor. It wasn't anything, I guess you would say, worthwhile of being a part of. But now people can see that with organization, preparation, it only could take, that's only 12 families. 12 people, and maybe even less than 6 families, because these people are related, these 12 people. So, that's the thing, it's gonna, you're gonna have to take that sacrifice, and if you don't, that's your personal decision. So then going to, the current members, let me see if that's important. I will post the BIA's ancestry chart that you can fill out, and the membership enrollment application. That goes into, that's the individual history charts, ancestry charts. I don't need to touch that too much. So membership composed particularly of persons not members of any federally recognized Indian tribe. So again, if you're enrolled with another tribe and you're still riding the Minnesota Midwakanton bandwagon, you're going to need to either disenroll, or you're going to just, support from the outside, because this is not a dual agency. This is not dual enrollment. This tribe, I have visions and plans of having economic programs and getting the same rights as these other federally recognized tribes. So, you see, now that was pretty quick. Obviously I skipped a lot. I shared it so you can be able to see it and read it for yourself. If you really think about this, now I'll just kind of touch on, what Damon's thoughts are. If you really were to organize this where you got everything cited and you got everything lined up, and you send a good package to the Department of Interior where this is here's all these families, they have their whole written narrative, and then we collaborated their family history with this family history, and then we put it all together and we make sense of it. Nobody's going to be able to stop that. That's something that it's their oath and federal obligation as federal agents and solicitors and assistant directors and all those people in those positions of power. What happens is that the emotions override, the loss of something, or the feeling of not being included into something, or people saying the Minnesota Midwakanton were already federally recognized, you gotta kind of think about it, that's just like Shakopee saying, we were federally recognized, but then nothing happened, there was no community center, no casino, but we were already federally recognized, Obviously, if you were already federally recognized, you adopted a constitution, you abide by it, you had a secretarial election vote for the governing body. These things that, maybe we didn't have the resources or the knowledge at the time, give and take in 1934. It would be surprising if somebody could read and write English, even at that time period. I'm sure, there were people, but that was a time period where, again, a survival situation. So if you have these ducks in a row, it starts now. It doesn't start tomorrow. It doesn't start when I'm done taking videos. It doesn't start. If you need any help, that's where I will work on an hourly wage and or just a full price on doing a family project, because that's what I did, and then I read it over and over and over and over and over. So when my time comes, or if my situation comes, I can tell you my family lineage. I mean, my mom Tori, Grandpa Daryl, great grandpa Milo, great grandpa John, great grandma Margaret, loyal Mid-Wacaton, great grandma Angeline Moran, and her father, Chief Big Thunder of Kaposha. I mean, like, that's it right there. That's 8 generations right there. And then my daughter Mapia. So that's, you got to be able to say it off like that. You got to be able to say, well, this person was doing this. Well, this grandparent was doing this during this time to their death. And then this, parent was doing this. You have to do that. You cannot skip or cut corners. You cannot skip decades. Even if there was a dull phrase, you need to explain that dull phrase of what wasn't, there was no tribal affiliation at this point. We were in survival mode, because obviously, when we put this narrative together, those Indians got brought from Lower Sioux to Fort Snelling. Those settlers were throwing rocks at them. Kids were getting teased for being Indian. Kids were getting taken and put in Pipestone school. And then there's just time gaps of, mostly commonly the women were the ones that were to marry, and then their kids were to marry whites, and then, it was a slow phase out. So you're going to have to be able to explain that. And I stress that enough. I'm going to keep making clips. So, if you take the time, I appreciate it. If you don't, I really don't. That's the thing. I've seen it happen once. I've seen it, Grandpa John, one of the 12 original founders, my wife, her grandmother, one of the original charter member founders, wrote the Constitution to the SMSC community. You got 12 people, and a whole bunch of people out there who were Mid-Wacaton, didn't give a rat's ass, didn't no help, these people. And then, as soon as Wolfchild started and the casinos were opening up, all these families and people putting their hands out saying, you owe me, I'm 1886 Mid-Wacaton. Well, I understand that, but you weren't a part of this. And that's what I told the interviewer too. It's like, it's going to take this group of people to depart themselves from self-entitlement. You are not entitled to nothing. You are not entitled to any per capita share or any economic success of any community that you did not put a part of, or your grandparent or your parent did it. And, I would like to say, oh, well, we're all Indian, we all should kumbaya, that sounds nice and all, and that's probably, traditional ways back then. But even then, there were separate villages, there were separate chiefs, and there were separate, it wasn't just one big grand finale tribe, just a valley just full of teepees. There was subgroups. There always has been. That's something that we can also prove as a continuous political community. Just because there are currently federally recognized tribes, that doesn't mean that these federally recognized tribes are enrolling people, and as they shouldn't. And if they should, it's just like, what do you have to offer? What do you contribute? It's like, as I'm learning and going through life and meeting people, and a lot of it's just contributing to the community. Nobody owes you nothing. Even this video, for me to take the time out, and I'm not trying to sound ignorant, but this is free information. This is information that that's worth hundreds and thousands of dollars. And I've sat and talked to these attorneys who fought on these cases and shared my ideas and heard their ideas, and me going out and the resources and going to me looking at microfilm and at the Historic Society. This, for me to just come here, for me to just come drop a 30-minute video would have been a lot easier, is what I'm saying. So you already got that to your advantage. I'm available. You can friend me on Facebook, give me a message saying, hey, really want to be a part of this, but we lack documents, we lack the story. And that's where I'll go heads in, diving in, calling my genealogist, trying to pull some of the old guys out of retirement, and say, hey, we got a project. And that's not cheap, let alone to hire a genealogist. That could be 5 to 10 to how many thousands, So it's nothing gonna, nothing is gonna be cheap. Nothing's gonna be easy. That's where I'm gonna, I've been volunteering my time making videos, and maybe they're useful. Maybe I missed a lot, and I have missed a lot. There's like a lot that hasn't been discussed, but I do know that the information provided, if you were to listen to this and start on your family narrative and go ahead and complete that, get all the pictures together, and even take a recent family photo. I mean, like, how can they deny an existence of a people? It's like, we're not making this up. We're not over here, and there are people who make it up, as odd as that sounds. That guys that figure out, well, if I just start a federally recognized community, then I can avoid property taxes, and I can operate and manage a casino and such, and they've done it. Like, there was guys I've saw that Trump, they were taking federal recognition away from tribes, from crooked ass people like that. Just simply, like, this is a drop in the bucket. For a lot of people in America, they would be like, wow, this is a very easy task. This is not a treaty. This is not a, we're in a country where it's like the resources we have, for us to just fill out these criteria is I don't understand why. I do understand why. It's easy to sit in court, and it's easy to hire a lawyer, and it's easy to rant to that lawyer, and it's easy to show him what you have. And wait, I don't go for that. I don't, that's not me. Me, Damon, is knocking at the BIA's door. Damon shows up to the BIA with the land developer and a general contractor, like, hey, we're right here. This. I mean, it doesn't get any more real than this. You got the Indian, you got the builder. These people have developed thousands of acres in Prior Lake in the Scott County location. So, we're not here joking, so that's why the BIA let us in. It was incredible. It was like, you go through, and it's like you go through the door, but you got to call, hey, I just said, just to get in, I just said, yep, I have a meeting. I'm late. I'm the spokesman for the Minnesota Midwakaton. And I just didn't elaborate on it, and then, okay, they open the door, and then you walk in, and then it's a glass that the desk receptionist is sitting at, and it's a bulletproof glass, and then there's another door you go through. So it's like, I got through the first door, talked to the receptionist, had my developer, had my land developer, had my general contractor. Then we got into the other door, and we're sitting there with the real estate specialist going over stuff, because it's like, I mean, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for people that are ready to do that. People that are, that's the, you get that done right, it's just gonna go quicker. The longer that we wait, and the longer that time goes by, the less interest comes about it, more defeat comes out of it. Those feelings are hard to overcome. And it's like, to have somebody who is smarter than me, it's like, even Carl's, he volunteers his time. There's a lot of elders that are probably wise like him, voice cracking, wise just like Carl, probably knows everything Carl knows, but doesn't share that online and doesn't share that information. And what good does that do? You're not, if you got information, you're just holding it in, that's not helping nobody. So, this is just a video, that I read the petitioning outline, so you can get an idea. It's just like, as I got older, when I first started that, I think I was 19, I lack experience. I don't have a college education. I've never been, a part of a community to be able to be brought up to knowing what the structure is. It was all something that, nobody had to convince me to go to these communities and meet those people, when the chairman or chairwomen of these communities. I go out of my way to introduce myself. I've gotten to know a lot of people by just putting myself out there. So you're gonna have to put yourself out there, okay? We're not gonna know your name if you don't put yourself out there. We're not gonna know your story, your family. I will forever be a record that I looked through, and I might not remember because I haven't, their descendants never stepped up. But I've read through, every census roll, and I'm very familiar with the last names. There's not too many last names that I believe you could say that I wouldn't know. So, it'd be a bummer that I just read your family history, through a census roll, and then nothing comes about for it. So, it's not trying to put in the fear into people, but I've seen the defeat. I've seen people angry. I've seen people promote the idea that there should be the 3 casinos as one, and and it's just like, where do you get off on thinking that way? Where do you get off on thinking that a federal judge is just going to hurry up and just say, "Yup, you should have been on the list act"? Where do you get off on that the communities owe you? And now, if you did contribute to the community and you were wronged, that's another situation. But get over it. That's something I had to get over. That it's something that it's gonna. We'll see what happens with the presidential elections. The different methods of how Trump wants to go about it. But even if it's Trump going about it, it still is what it is. It was a Republican. People forget that those during 1883. Guess who was president? A Republican. Guess who was presidents during these treaty negotiations? Republicans. I think the only Democrat that actually promoted the Midwacaton was his name. Henry Rice. Henry Rice. He was the one. I believe he was on the Senate, or he was a congressman. He promoted the 1854 Act, where the Lake Pepin Sioux would relinquish their reservation allotment to trade land in the public domain. And then look what happened with that method. You just our ancestors relinquished their treaty land for land in the public domain that they would have to eventually pay taxes on, which those lands were never protected by the state. Those lands are gray title, void. That's what and I'm not saying you need to vote Republican or Democrat, but Republicans have been an influence for the Midwacaton. And that go look it up. Go look up every event through Midwacaton history, and during those timelines, look up who the president was. I don't necessarily share my political views. I wouldn't even tell you what I am. I'm not going to tell you who I voted for. I just believe in that the Minnesota Midwacaton deserve justice. They have been deprived of their history, culture, and their existence, and it's time for the United States and the Department of Interior to not give us a big apology and give us a hug and have a sob story, but to start a people to freedom, to their own community, their own structure, their own beliefs. That should be implied for any American Indian tribe. And that's where I hope Dakota City goes further than this. I hope I am, that there's no hope, that's what Democrats said. There's hope, I don't want, not even I just said hope, I am, it's like, hoping, that you get rid of the hope word out of your head, where Dakota City can, not only after this, we can branch off to other tribes and help other people, because once we do it, that's the thing. I've emailed, and, anybody successful, either a recent petitioning group, you can ask them, how did you do it? And 10 times out of 10, they'll tell you, hey, this is what we did. This is what we did wrong. This is how we did it. This is, that's where, that's the dedication we need. That's the dedication we need. We need, if you're going to sit there and you're going to, message me, ranting or what should it be, or, no, just how can I help? And that's with all due respect, that's how I come across, I'll mow your lawn for free, that's how, I was just to be able to meet chairmen and chairwomen, can I mow your lawn? Can I give you, wash your car? Can I, can I make coffee? Can I just sit at the meeting and just shut up and I'll just make coffee and print things off if you need it? I've done that for these 3 federally recognized communities that those who mentored me, and I'll keep the names confidential for safety reasons and legal reasons. But that's how I was, and it's a bummer when you see people who are not like that. Don't want to put in the work. Don't want to, expecting others to do it for them. I can't tell your family story better than you. I can read and study it and then, interpret it in my way, but, there's certain things that I can't add. All I can do is just the documents. You're going to have to present your family story. And I don't think you'll regret it. It's like, if you're willing to wait a couple of years waiting, you should be able to wait a couple of years trying and working, So that's Damon Knight. It's a 40-minute video. Thank you for watching. It's Damon as the man. I'm out. I'll try to make these videos. I'm not going to do it every day. I'm really excited about this microphone, so I'm kind of feeling like a radio host right now. So thanks for watching. Like, share, think about it.